Jacob Reed had always lived a quiet life, the kind of life that made him almost invisible in a busy world. People in the nearby towns knew him as the cowboy who kept to himself, the one who worked hard, spoke little, and helped anyone who needed him without asking for anything in return. He wasn't famous, he wasn't wealthy, and he didn't belong to a big family. But he had something that made people trust him, a steady heart and a calm mind. Most days, Jacob spent his time guiding supply wagons from one place to another. He knew the open land better than anyone. He could read the wind, the shape of the hills, and the sounds of the night. He could tell when rain was coming, or when a trail would be difficult to cross. Many people depended on him because he was reliable. If Jacob promised to guide someone safely, he did it. No excuses, no delays. One early morning, Jacob was traveling alone. He had finished one job, and was on his way to another small settlement, where he had been asked to help with cattle work. The sun was only beginning to rise, coloring the sky with soft orange light. Birds were waking up, and the air felt fresh and cool. Jacob breathed deeply and felt grateful for the simple beauty of the world around him. He enjoyed these quiet moments, when nature felt peaceful and alive. He rode on his horse, a loyal brown mare he called Willow. She had been with him for years, and he trusted her more than most people. Willow walked calmly as Jacob hummed a soft tune. Everything felt normal, and nothing warned him that this peaceful morning was about to change his entire life. Later that day, as he rode through a narrow valley, Jacob felt a sudden wave of weakness. At first, he thought he was tired from the long ride, but soon he realized something was wrong. His head felt light. His breathing became shallow, and he could hardly stay upright in the saddle. He tried to guide Willow to stop, but his hands were shaking. The world around him blurred as his strength faded quickly, faster than he could understand. Jacob didn't know how far he traveled before he finally slipped from the saddle and fell onto the soft ground. The earth felt cool under him, but he could barely feel anything. Willow stepped nervously around him, unsure why her rider wasn't standing back up. Jacob tried to speak to calm her, but no words came out. He could only hear his own heartbeat slowing down, and a deep silence settling over him. The sky above him looked impossibly wide. Clouds drifted slowly as if they were in no hurry at all. Jacob stared at them, feeling as though he was drifting away from the world. He closed his eyes, hoping the feeling would pass, but instead it grew worse. His body felt heavy, and his breathing became thinner, like a fading whisper. Alone in the valley, with no one nearby, Jacob felt the weight of his solitude. He had lived most of his life without needing anyone. But now, lying helpless on the ground, he wished anyone would find him. The land stretched endlessly around him, and he knew the chances were small. Still, a part of him held on to a tiny bit of hope. Time moved strangely. Sometimes Jacob felt half awake, hearing faint sounds like the rustle of leaves, the distant call of birds, or Willow's worried snorts. Other times, he felt completely disconnected from everything. His mind drifted between shadow and light, between the desire to survive and the growing urge to let go. Hours passed, though Jacob could not tell how many. The day grew warmer, then cooler again as the sun lowered toward the horizon. Willow stayed close, as if refusing to leave without him. She nudged his arm gently a few times, hoping he would respond. When he didn't, she lowered her head sadly and stood guard over him. Just as the sky began turning darker, faint voices echoed through the valley. They were soft at first, distant, and mixed with the wind. Jacob tried to open his eyes, unsure if those voices were real or part of a dream. He heard footsteps, several of them approaching slowly, carefully. Then came the sound of Willow's gentle whinny, followed by a calm voice speaking in a language Jacob didn't recognize. Another voice replied, deeper and more cautious. Jacob wanted to lift his head to see who they were, but he couldn't. He could only feel the presence of people around him. One of the voices came closer. The person's steps were light, soft, almost quiet enough to be part of the wind. A warm hand touched Jacob's forehead, checking for signs of life. The touch was gentle, filled with concern. Jacob felt a wave of comfort at that simple human contact. He heard someone say something in a calm tone, words filled with urgency, but also care. Though he couldn't understand their language, he felt the intention behind them. The hand on his forehead moved to his wrist, checking his weak pulse. The person knelt beside him, breathing steady, focused, and patient. Jacob managed to open his eyes for a brief moment. Through his blurred vision, he saw the outline of a woman. She wore traditional Apache clothing. Her dark hair flowed down her shoulders, and her eyes were sharp, filled with determination. She looked at him with a mixture of worry and hope, as if she was fighting against time itself. This woman was Ayanna, a skilled healer of her tribe. She had been traveling with 2 other Apache scouts when they noticed Willow alone and restless. Curious and concerned, they followed the horse's tracks and found Jacob lying nearly unconscious in the valley. Ayanna immediately understood the urgency of the situation. She spoke to her companions quickly. Although they hesitated, aware that bringing an outsider into their camp could create tension, Ayanna stood firm. She believed that every life had value, and she would not leave this man to fade away alone. Her companions finally agreed and began preparing a makeshift stretcher from branches and blankets they carried. Ayanna stayed close to Jacob, whispering to him softly in her native language, hoping to keep him aware and connected to the world. She didn't know if he understood her, but she knew that sometimes even unfamiliar words could help a fading mind hold on. Jacob tried to listen. His vision dimmed and brightened like a flickering flame. He couldn't understand her words, but the tone in her voice comforted him. It felt like a warm light in the darkness. For the first time since he collapsed, he felt a sense of safety. Ayanna placed her hand gently on his chest, feeling the slow rise and fall of his breathing. She knew they had little time. She signaled to the others to lift him carefully onto the stretcher. Jacob felt their movements faintly, as if happening in a distant dream. The sky above him shifted as they lifted him, but his eyes closed again from exhaustion. The journey back to the Apache camp was long. Ayanna and the others moved steadily, making sure every step was smooth so Jacob wouldn't suffer more. Along the way, Ayanna checked his breathing repeatedly. Each time his breath grew shallower, she spoke to him again, her words soft and reassuring. As they neared the camp, the lights of small fires glowed between the trees. The smell of burning wood and herbs drifted into the cool air. Members of the tribe noticed the group returning with an outsider, and quickly gathered with mixed expressions, curiosity, worry, and uncertainty. Bringing a stranger, especially a cowboy, into their home was unusual and risky. But when they saw how weak Jacob was and how determined Ayanna looked, most of them stepped aside to let her through. Ayanna guided the stretcher into her healing lodge, a quiet space filled with dried herbs, clay bowls, and warm blankets. She directed 2 women from the tribe to help her. They worked quickly, placing Jacob on a soft mat and covering him with a warm blanket. Ayanna noticed his breathing was still shallow, but she also sensed a spark of life still inside him. As the night grew deeper, Ayanna stayed beside him, preparing natural remedies to ease his weakness. She watched him closely, studying every change in his expression, every shift in his breathing. Jacob lay still, unaware of the battle being fought around him, won to save his fading life. For the first time in a long while, he wasn't alone. Someone cared whether he survived. Someone was fighting for him, and that small truth kept a tiny flame of hope alive in his fading heart. Ayanna stayed awake through most of the night, watching over Jacob with steady patience. She placed warm stones near his feet to keep his body temperature stable, and crushed healing herbs in a small clay bowl. The soft crackle of fire and the gentle scent of sage filled the lodge. It was a peaceful place. Yet her heart remained tense with worry. She had treated many people in her life, but something about this cowboy felt different. She felt responsible for him not because she had to be, but because her heart simply guided her to care. Jacob lay unconscious most of the time, breathing slowly, sometimes unevenly. His face looked pale, and his hands felt cold each time Ayanna checked them. She kept whispering gentle words near his ear, not knowing if he could hear her, but hoping he did. Outside the lodge, members of the Apache tribe gathered, debating quietly among themselves. They respected Ayanna deeply, but bringing a stranger, especially one from outside their people, into the heart of their camp was not a small decision. Some were concerned, afraid it could bring unwanted trouble. Others believed that their traditions of compassion guided them to help anyone in need. Just as Ayanna believed. As the first light of morning entered the lodge, Ayanna opened her tired eyes. She had fallen asleep for a moment while sitting beside Jacob. She touched his forehead again, still warm, still weak, still fighting. She sighed softly, knowing that this day would also be difficult. Soon, her grandmother, an elder respected among the tribe, stepped into the lodge. She stood slowly beside Ayanna and looked down at Jacob with thoughtful, wise eyes. "You kept watch all night," her grandmother said in a gentle voice. "Tell me what your heart says. Tell me what your heart says." Ayanna looked at Jacob, then at her grandmother. "My heart says he must be given a chance," she replied softly. "He came close to losing his life, but something inside him is still holding on. I feel it." Her grandmother nodded. "Then continue the healing. But be prepared. Others may question your decision." Ayanna knew this well. Saving someone from outside their tribe always came with questions. But she didn't feel afraid. She cleaned Jacob's face with a damp cloth and whispered, "You must keep fighting. Don't give up." As morning grew brighter, Ayanna began preparing a new blend of herbs that would help reduce his fever. She heated water over the fire, added leaves and roots, and stirred slowly. The smell of healing herbs filled the lodge, warm and earthy. She lifted Jacob's head gently and helped him drink a few drops. Though he was barely conscious, he swallowed with difficulty. Hours passed. Ayanna stayed beside him, sometimes speaking softly, sometimes simply watching him breathe. She noticed small changes. His heartbeat felt a little stronger. His chest rose more evenly. These were tiny steps, but they gave her hope. Later that afternoon, some of the tribe's leaders came to speak with Ayanna. They stepped inside the lodge and stood a few steps away from Jacob. One of the elders, a serious man named Tohan, cleared his throat. "Ayanna," he said calmly, "we respect your skills, but we must ask you to explain your choice. Why did you bring him here? What if others see this as an invitation to enter our land?" Ayanna stood up and faced them respectfully. "He was dying," she said plainly. "We found him alone, without help. I could not leave him there." Tohan nodded slowly. "We do not question your heart, but feelings cannot guide the future of our people. You must be careful. He may bring questions, or even fear, if others learn he is here." Ayanna looked back at Jacob. His breathing was still weak, but he seemed a little more stable than before. "I understand," she replied. "But I also believe that saving one life can sometimes shape the world in ways we do not yet see. I ask for your trust." The elders exchanged quiet glances. Ayanna's grandmother stepped forward and placed her hand on Ayanna's shoulder. "She is our healer," she said firmly. "We must allow her to follow her wisdom. This man's life should not be lost because of fear." After a moment of silence, Tohan gave a slow, respectful nod. "Very well," he said. "We will trust you. But stay cautious." Once the elders left, Ayanna let out a breath she had been holding. She sat again beside Jacob and gently moved a lock of hair from his forehead. "You are causing many hearts to worry," she whispered softly, almost smiling. "You must wake up soon." Evening fell. The sky outside warmed with beautiful shades of orange and pink. Ayanna lit a small lamp and placed it beside Jacob, creating a soft glow inside the lodge. She decided to try a traditional healing song, one that her mother used to sing on nights when someone was ill. The melody was slow and calming, carrying a sense of comfort. As she sang, Jacob's breathing grew steadier. It was as if the rhythm of her voice connected with something deep inside him. Ayanna continued for several minutes, her voice gentle yet strong, her heart fully focused on calling him back to strength. Suddenly, Jacob's fingers twitched slightly. Ayanna noticed and leaned closer. her eyes bright with hope. "Jacob," she said softly, using his name for the first time. "Can you hear me?" Jacob didn't open his eyes, but the faint movement was a sign that he was still fighting. Later that night, when the camp grew quieter, Ayanna sat beside him once more. She felt tired but also strangely peaceful. She placed her hand lightly on his chest to check his breathing. It rose and fell rhythmically, still weak but not fading. As she watched him sleep, a question settled in her mind. Why had she felt so strongly connected to this stranger from the moment she found him? She couldn't explain it. She only knew that her heart had spoken clearly, urging her to save him, to protect him. Whether it was destiny or something else, she couldn't say. Across the camp, young children played near the fire, their laughter drifting through the evening air. Families cooked their meals, elders shared stories, and everything felt normal. But inside Ayanna's healing lodge, the atmosphere was filled with quiet determination and hope. Around midnight, Jacob stirred again. This time, it was not just a twitch. He moved his head slightly and parted his lips as if trying to speak. Ayanna quickly leaned closer. "Jacob," she whispered, "you are safe. You are in our camp. Rest, and you will grow stronger." Jacob made a small sound, a soft breath that carried a hint of confusion. His eyes fluttered for a moment, then closed again. But Ayanna felt encouraged. He was trying, he was fighting. She placed her hand near his cheek and whispered, "Don't leave. Stay with us. Stay with me." Those words came from her heart before she even realized she had spoken them. They were not planned or forced, they simply appeared, honest and gentle. In that moment, something changed. Jacob's weak breathing became slightly deeper, more stable. Ayanna felt it beneath her palm. It was as if her words had reached a place inside him where light still existed. She remained by his side for hours, her presence strong and comforting. Even when she grew tired, she refused to leave him alone. Every time his breath wavered, she whispered again, "Don't go. Keep fighting." By sunrise, Jacob's condition had noticeably improved. He still wasn't awake, but the dangerous edge he had been on seemed farther away. His skin felt less cold. His heart beat a little firmer. Ayanna looked at him with grateful eyes. "You heard me," she murmured. "Somewhere inside you, you heard me." Though she didn't know Jacob's story, where he came from, or what kind of life he lived, she felt a powerful connection, building something quiet but unbreakable. She sensed that the journey ahead would not be simple. But she also believed that saving him would change more than just his life. It might change hers as well. Jacob woke slowly, like someone rising from the bottom of a deep and peaceful lake. His senses returned in soft, blurry waves. First, he heard a faint crackling sound. Then he noticed a gentle warmth covering him, as if the air around him was quietly breathing. Finally, he felt the presence of someone sitting close. Someone calm and steady. When he opened his eyes, the world looked dim at first. Shapes were unclear, and the ceiling above him seemed to move. He blinked several times until the view slowly settled. He saw a wooden ceiling made of carefully placed branches. Soft light from a lamp flickered on one side of the room, and sitting nearby, watching him with gentle, hopeful eyes, was Ayanna. For a long moment, Jacob didn't speak. His body felt heavy, but not as weak as before. His breath came more steadily. His heart no longer felt like it was fading. Instead, he felt safe. That was the only word his mind could form. Ayanna noticed his eyes open and leaned forward slightly. "You are awake," she said softly, her voice filled with relief and warmth. "You are safe now." Jacob stared at her quietly, trying to understand where he was and how he had survived. His memory returned in pieces a long ride. Sudden weakness, falling from his horse, darkness, and then a soft voice he had heard somewhere far away. A voice that had called him back. He tried to speak. His voice came out rough and dry. Where am I?" "You are in our camp," Ayana explained gently. "We found you in the valley. You were very weak, but you held on." Jacob swallowed with difficulty. His throat felt dry, so Ayana reached for a small bowl of warm herbal tea. She slipped an arm behind his shoulders and helped him sit up little by little. Jacob didn't have the strength to hold himself long, so she steadied him, allowing him to drink slowly. The tea felt warm and soothing as it traveled down his throat. Jacob breathed out quietly, feeling grateful and surprised. "You saved me," he whispered. Ayana shook her head softly. "Your spirit stayed strong. I only helped." Jacob looked at her a little longer. Something in her calm eyes made him feel a comfort he hadn't known in a long time. She smiled gently, and he felt something warm bloom inside his chest. Ayana placed the bowl aside and helped him lie back down. "Rest more," she said. "Your body is not yet ready for long talking." Jacob nodded. He felt more awake than before, but knew he was still far from fully recovered. As Ayana adjusted his blanket, he noticed the care in every movement. She made steady hands, thoughtful attention, quiet patience. There were no rushed gestures, no harsh commands, only kindness. For the next several days, Jacob drifted between resting and short moments of awareness. Each time he opened his eyes, Ayana was nearby. Sometimes, she was preparing herbs. Sometimes, she was singing softly. Sometimes, she was simply sitting with her hands folded, watching over him like a guardian of peace. Jacob found comfort in her presence. Even when he couldn't speak much, he felt connected to her. She didn't ask anything from him. She didn't judge him or show fear. She treated him as if his life mattered deeply, even though they had never met before. Eventually, Jacob grew strong enough to sit up for longer moments. His vision became clearer, and his mind became more awake. One afternoon, Ayana brought him a bowl of broth, made from vegetables and herbs. The smell was comforting. She sat beside him while he ate slowly. "Thank you," Jacob said after finishing. "I wouldn't be alive without you." Ayana smiled modestly. "Healing is my responsibility." "But your heart had to choose to stay." Jacob looked down thoughtfully. "I heard something when I was fading. A voice." Ayana's expression softened. "Maybe you heard my words." He looked at her, eyes curious. "What did you say?" She hesitated for a moment, then answered honestly. "I told you not to go, that you should stay." Jacob's eyes warmed with gratitude. Something inside him felt deeply touched. "I think..." Those words pulled me back. Ayana looked at him with a quiet sense of wonder. She didn't respond right away, but her eyes told him she understood the connection they shared. Over the next days, Jacob slowly learned more about the camp. Members of the tribe visited him, offering friendly nods and curious looks. Some stayed only a moment. Others asked how he felt, and a few brought small items such as fruit or warm cloths. Their kindness surprised him. He had heard many stories about the Apache people, most of them filled with misunderstanding. But here, he saw gentleness, respect, and a sense of community. Ayana made sure Jacob did not overexert himself. She helped him practice sitting longer, then standing with her support. The first time he stood, his legs shook like dry branches in a breeze. Ayana stood close, holding his arm firmly but gently. "You are doing well," she encouraged. Jacob tried taking a step. His knees trembled, and he nearly lost balance. But Ayana steadied him. He laughed softly, embarrassed, and yet grateful. "You have more patience than anyone I've known," he said. Ayana smiled. "Healing takes time. You are learning again." Each day they spent time talking. Jacob told her about his work guiding wagons, the long trails he traveled, and the quiet nights he spent under the stars. Ayana listened with interest, asking questions that showed she cared about every detail. In return, she told him about her life in the tribe, the healing knowledge passed down through generations, the seasons they prepared for, and the traditions that kept their community strong. Jacob listened to her stories with deep respect. He learned how much wisdom lived in her words, how closely her people lived with nature, and how their customs shaped their daily lives. Sometimes they simply sat together in silence. It wasn't an uncomfortable silence, it felt peaceful, like they were sharing the same breath, the same moment, without needing many words. One morning, Ayana helped Jacob walk slowly outside for the first time. The sunlight felt warm on his face. The camp was alive with activity. Children played near a small stream. Women prepared food. Men shaped wood and tools. Everyone seemed connected, in quiet harmony. Jacob felt a little overwhelmed by the beauty and peace of the place. "I didn't expect this," he admitted softly. Ayana glanced at him. "Expect what?" "This calm. This kindness." He paused and added, "Your people welcomed me, even though you didn't know me." "Ah," Ayana nodded. "We believe in helping those in need. You came to us weak, but we saw your heart." Jacob smiled. "I'm glad you found me." Ayana looked away briefly, her cheeks warming. "I am glad too." As the days turned into weeks, Jacob regained much of his strength. He could walk independently, although slowly. He helped with small tasks around the camp to show gratitude, carrying water, gathering firewood, or fixing simple tools. Tribe members appreciated his efforts, and he began to feel like he belonged. But the person he spent the most time with was Ayana. Their bond grew naturally, like a river flowing toward the sea. Jacob noticed the way her eyes brightened when she saw him. Ayana noticed how Jacob listened to her with respect and softened his voice when speaking to her. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky with gentle colors, they sat outside the lodge together. The breeze was cool, carrying the scent of pine and warm earth. "Ayana," Jacob said slowly, "I don't know how to thank you for everything." She looked at him with calm eyes. "You have thanked me many times." "Not enough," he replied. "You gave me life again." Ayana shook her head softly. "No, I reminded you to stay. Your heart did the rest." Jacob looked at her with deep gratitude. "Still, I want you to know something. I won't forget your voice. The words you said, they are inside me." Ayana's eyes softened. "I am glad." They shared a quiet moment. The kind of moment that didn't need explanation. A feeling grew between them. Gentle, warm, and honest. It wasn't sudden or loud. It was steady, like the slow growth of sunlight at dawn. Jacob realized then that his life had changed in more ways than just surviving. He had found someone who cared deeply, someone who had guided him back from the edge of darkness. And Ayana realized that the stranger she had saved was no longer just a patient. He had become someone important to her heart. They didn't speak of the future yet. They didn't need to. The connection between them grew each day, silent and strong. And though Jacob still had decisions ahead of him, one truth was clear. His heart had already begun choosing a path that led toward Ayana, the woman whose whisper had brought him back to life. The next few months brought a kind of peace that Sam had never experienced before. It was not a loud or showy peace, but a quiet one that grew slowly inside him. Each day felt like a small step forward. And even though some days were harder than others, he kept going. He had learned that healing was not a straight road. Some days he felt strong. Other days he felt tired. But he no longer felt alone. And that made all the difference. He spent more time with Adam now. At first, their conversations were short, because Sam was not used to sharing his thoughts. But with time, he began to open up. Adam listened with calm patience, never interrupting, never judging. He encouraged Sam to speak at his own pace. And slowly, Sam started understanding that he did not have to hide everything he felt. He began to share more about his fears, his dreams, and his plans. The more he talked, the lighter he felt. One evening, they sat on a small bench near the lake. The sky was turning orange, and the water reflected the colors beautifully. Sam looked calm, but inside, he was thinking deeply. He finally said, almost in a whisper, "I want to do something meaningful in life. I want to help others like you helped me. Adam smiled warmly. He knew this moment meant something. You can, Sam, he replied. You have already taken the hardest steps. When a person heals, they become a light for others. If you have the wish to help, then you already have the heart for it. Those words stayed with Sam for days. He repeated them in his mind during quiet moments. He began volunteering at a local community center for a few hours each week. At first, he helped organize books, clean the hall, and arrange chairs. It was simple work, but it made him feel useful. With time, he started helping children with their homework. He enjoyed seeing their excitement when they learned something new. Their laughter filled the room, and it gave Sam a joy he had not felt in a long time. The children liked him too. They found him gentle, patient, and easy to talk to. One of the children, a boy named Zane, often waited for him eagerly. He called him Big Brother Sam, and the way he said it always made Sam smile with pride. Sam realized that even small acts of kindness could make a big difference in someone's life. He understood now what Adam meant about becoming a light. At home, Sam's relationship with his family improved as well. They noticed the changes in him. He smiled more often and talked openly. His father, who had always been strict, became softer after seeing Sam work so hard on himself. He started spending more time with Sam, asking him about his day, and showing interest in his work at the community center. Sam's mother felt relieved and happy that her son was finally finding peace. She cooked his favorite meals just to see him smile. Sam's sister often sat with him at night, talking about school and sharing jokes. Their bond grew stronger, and Sam felt grateful for all the support around him. For the first time in years, his home felt warm and full of love. He felt like he belonged again. One day, Sam received a message from the community center. They wanted him to help organize a small event for children. It was a simple event with games, snacks, and storytelling. But to Sam, it felt huge because it was the first time someone trusted him with responsibility. He felt nervous at first, but he accepted the task. He knew this was another step toward becoming the person he wanted to be. He worked hard planning everything. He made lists, talked to volunteers, arranged small gifts for the children, and even practiced his storytelling. When the day of the event finally arrived, Sam stood in front of the children with a calm smile on his face. As he told his story, the children listened with wide eyes. Some even clapped excitedly at the end. Sam felt proud. Not because he was perfect, but because he had tried and succeeded. Adam attended the event too. He watched Sam from a distance with a smile that showed both pride and joy. After the event ended, he walked up to Sam and said, "You did amazing today. I'm proud of you." Sam's eyes shone with emotion. "I couldn't have done any of this without your support," he said truthfully. "You did it, Sam," Adam replied. "I just walked with you, but every step was yours." These words touched Sam deeply. He realized that true help does not take control, it gives strength. And that was exactly what Adam had given him. Strength to rebuild himself, piece by piece. As weeks went by, Sam became more confident. He no longer felt afraid of the future. Instead, he started planning it. He wanted to study further, improve his skills, and find a stable job. He wanted to support his family and help more people. He felt hopeful, and hope was something he had missed for many years. He also made new friends at the community center. They shared ideas, laughed together, and learned from each other. For the first time, Sam felt like he was part of a group where he could be himself without fear. He enjoyed being around people who respected him, not for what he had or had done, but simply for who he was. However, the journey was not always smooth. Some days, old memories came back, and Sam felt anxious. But now, he had tools to deal with those feelings. He would take a walk, talk to Adam, or write his thoughts in a notebook. He had learned that healing did not mean forgetting. It meant learning how to live without letting the past control him. One evening, Sam sat with Adam on the same bench by the lake. This time, Sam looked more confident, more calm. The water reflected the soft light of the moon, making the moment peaceful. "Do you ever think I will fully heal?" Sam asked gently. Adam thought for a moment before answering. Healing is not about reaching a perfect point. It is about growing, learning, and becoming kinder to yourself. And you're already doing that. Every day you work on yourself, you heal more. Sam nodded slowly. "I feel stronger now. I want to keep helping others too. If someone else feels lost like I once felt, I want to be there for them." "That is a beautiful goal," Adam said, "and I know you will achieve it." Sam smiled softly. He believed it too. Months passed, and Sam's life kept improving. He joined a course to learn new skills, which opened new opportunities for him. His teachers praised his dedication, and his classmates respected him for his kind nature. He helped others in class just like he helped the children at the center. Many people started seeing him as someone they could trust. His bond with his family grew even stronger. They saw him making clear efforts to build his life, and they supported him in every decision. His father proudly told relatives about Sam's progress. His mother prayed for his success every day. His sister often said that Sam had become her role model. Sam felt grateful for all the positive changes around him. He understood now that life could change. Not suddenly, but step by step, just like he had changed himself. He realized that good people, good guidance, and a strong will could turn even the darkest times into something meaningful. One day, the community center asked Sam if he would like to officially join as a part-time mentor for young people. He felt surprised but also deeply honored. He accepted the offer without hesitation. He knew he had something valuable to share. His experience, his understanding of pain, and his belief in hope. On his first day as a mentor, Sam stood in front of a group of teenagers. He looked at their faces and remembered how he once felt lost and unsure. He took a deep breath and began speaking in a calm voice. He told them that everyone faces difficulties, but with support, patience, and determination, anyone can rise again. The teenagers listened carefully. Some nodded, some smiled. Sam felt proud and peaceful. He was no longer the same person who once felt helpless. He had changed, grown, and become stronger. As he walked home that evening, he looked up at the sky. The stars were shining, and a soft breeze touched his face. He felt a warm sense of peace inside him. He thought about his journey, his struggles, his growth, and the people who helped him along the way. He knew the future would still bring challenges, but he also knew he was ready for them. He had learned to trust himself. He had learned that life could be rebuilt with patience and kindness. Most importantly, he had learned that even small steps could lead to big changes. Sam smiled to himself as he walked. He had found his purpose, a purpose built from hope, courage, and kindness. And he knew this was only the beginning of a brighter and meaningful life ahead.